Alright then, let's get started. Welcome everyone. A PTR was just announced. Actually, let me even give a little bit of context. Back to Warcraft tweeted that there was a PTR. And I didn't know what they meant. Like they wrote, Remo and I both got a PTR update. We'll keep you up to date if there's news. And I thought that they meant that they got like a insider info that there was a PTR. But apparently no. The PTR got updated. And then they said, oh, so I made this. Because I really didn't expect there was going to be a patch coming. And I think this is pretty good news. And yeah. So then finally the patch notes dropped later on. And then people started reading them. So I'm going to read through it. As well as the intro. So posted by Kyvax an hour ago. Yo, Spirits Action with the 10. Thank you very much. Let's celebrate human buffs. Yeah, we'll get there. Thank you, dude. Much love. Yeah, I changed the game already on Twitch. Warcraft 3 Reforged. Our community manager. Warcraft 3 Reforged. Version 1.32.10 PTR patch notes. Locktar, everyone. First, we'd like to give you a quick update on where we are on ranked play, leaderboards, and player profiles. The Warcraft team is committed to delivering you these features. However, due to the nature of the world today, it's taking longer than we planned. We thank you, our passionate community, for your understanding and continuing to support Warcraft 3. Today we've begun publicly testing patch 1.32.10, which addresses a critical bug fix that allowed players to exploit information from the opposing players by using rally points in the Fog of War. Thank you to all of the players who reached out to inform us about this issue. Additionally, with the ESL Pro League wrapping up for 2020, we've decided to make some balance updates to address some key community feedback about item balance, item pricing, and some pain points? Is that correct? Some pain points for both human and undead. We also revisited previous changes. I don't think I ever heard that expression here before. Once again, thank you to all the community contributors for continue to put out content and send us great feedback. Please test these changes via the PTR, as we will be monitoring it and calibrating throughout the PTR phase. Please remember these changes are a work in progress and subject to change, so please continue to provide feedback. We hope to release this patch sometime in mid-April, depending on how feedback and testing goes. The Warcraft 3 team. I feel like this was meant not to look like this, but I don't know. So balance. Common expression. Oh, okay. Human. Improve lumber tech requirement removed. So I believe this is the tier 2 upgrade that we used to research. Instead, it looked like they moved the tier 3 one to tier 2, if I'm understanding this right. Advanced lumber tech requirements change from castle to keep. Developers notes, in a human versus undead matchup, the human player is generally expected to lose some peasants throughout the early, to mid-game. The human player also must invest in a lot of food for early defense, yeah, right, and use militia quite frequently to defend, which causes them to have gold to wood ration imbalances. This change should help human players balance their economy and make it slightly easier to transition into the later part of the game and unlock key units against undead. Knights now have Sundering Blades by default. Well, first of all, yeah, I think this is a good change. I've talked about before how like you don't have enough lumber a lot of the time as human, and it's just really, really hard. You need like, I don't know, 13 to 15 peasants on lumber. I think with this change now, there is even an argument that can be made to go even less often for Shredder and instead just get the usual peasants that you would, but then to have a proper lumber upgrade on tier 2. That will help you a lot. But yeah, currently against undeads, once you fast expanded and then you teched, when you reach tier 2, the three things you had to start instantly was tier 3, mount tanking, and lumber upgrade every time. And you still wouldn't have a lot of lumber in many occasions. So this is going to be very important to have. Knights now have Sundering Blades by default. Developers notes, with the addition of Sundering Blade passive, we've really seen a lot more Knight usage, and we like that a lot. However, it takes a long time for Knights to come online with their multiple upgrades. We feel that allowing Sundering Blades to be on Knights by default allowed them to have an immediate impact when built, while giving them some uniqueness as a heavy late-game unit. It might seem like it's like a lot, but you want to get Sundering Blades in particular against Mountain Giants and Fiends. I think against Undead, playing 2 racks is very, very hard, because if they get Banshees, you're just gonna screwed. I mean, if they get Banshees technically against Knight, you will still be screwed regardless of whether you have Sundering Blades or not. Even in Human Mirror, like I don't think of the Knight as like this very strong unit. Even in Human Mirror, you don't see them unless it's fast expo against fast expo. But in Breaker Wars, nobody usually can go for tier 3, otherwise you just die to the opponent having like a lot of breakers and sorceresses and stuff. So I don't mind the breakers getting a little bit of help here with Sundering Blades being added on earlier. And I still think that at first glance, these two changes are helping against Undead, but last I checked, well, I've already read the rest of the patch note. I can tell you AMS is unchanged. Banshees, like they can still possess knights very easily, so even though in the first place this is gonna help against Undead, like it still doesn't fix some of the problems later on, but it helps at the stage where you reach tier 3 and you start making knights, I guess. Priest Dispel range increased from 600 to 700. Developers note change to the overall meta have moved players towards favoring ranged units in certain matchups. We noticed that whenever a priest will try to cast a Dispel, they will immediately get focused down by piercing damage and be killed immediately. This slight increase in range should improve the usability and quality of life for the priest. Well, I'm pretty sure the quality life for the priest is more based on them not going for the fucking Dispel whenever Death Note casted, so I think maybe that would have been the better change to actually like remove this or like lower this cooldown thing or like improve the priest by a few IQ numbers, because they're still a pretty damn stupid unit, and I don't know if going from 600 to 700 on the range is going to do a lot about that. Scout Tower, God Tower, Cannon Tower, Arcane Tower repair rate is now 5 seconds faster. Developers notes this was a change we tested in a previous PTR, but pulled away from to see how the previous patch performed. Since then, we've seen players shift to more ranged units, and we feel this change is needed to help humans defend against certain pushes. Currently, even if a human reacts immediately to a threat with a handful of peasants, it is still not enough to prevent their towers from going down. Yeah, it's true, like, whether there is like a lot of archers pushing your like destroyers, sometimes you have 5 towers at your expo, and destroyers are like, nice towers you got there, and then it just like melt everything. So I did think that the towers need a little bit of help. The tricky part about this is not to buff them to the point where when you like, we don't want human to start towering every game because it's just boring to see this every time, and like if it would be broken, it would just suck to see that. So I don't know how this is gonna look, but I'm glad that the towers are getting a bit of help, because one of humans' biggest problem currently is that the peasants are complete garbage. They're like the worst worker in the entire game. They always die in every matchup, even in Mirror. And the protection that you have for them, if at least the protection was good, then it would be okay to have some fragile peasant. But the protection that you have for them is also garbage. Those towers, they just die to everything. Like, you can't really often go for like masonry, and it's also like a boring mechanic to have to go for that to like be reinforced a little better. So I like that they're buffing towers. I mean, I don't know what 5 seconds faster is going to look like. I'm sure somebody's going to start making those GIFs soon where you see the difference between before and after, but I think it's some help, and I'll take it, because like those peasants, honestly, like makes me feel depressed sometimes to lose so many peasants every game and not be able to defend them ever. But then you attack an orc and it's like, yeah, they go inside burrows, they're totally fine, they got fortified on tier 2. You can dream about attacking an undead base, but you probably shouldn't do it. Yo, Wunzo, thank you for the resub, dude. Welcome back, much love. Yeah, so glad that something's being addressed to help out the peasant situation, because the tower buff is like a peasant buff, essentially, where they get a little bit more protection. Siege Engine tank experience bounty reduced from 85 to 60. Developers notes, while we wanted to reduce the overall effectiveness of certain Siege Engine strategies, we realized that due to the inflexibility of our experience leveling system, selling the bounty at 85 was too high. There has been some ongoing community sentiment that tanks were in a good place previously. So we've reduced the experience bounty. We'll continue to monitor this and may test additional changes in lieu of this one. In my mind, the ideal place in Warcraft 3 for the tanks is like a unit that you try and make a few of them to harass you and then to distract. But it's a unit that ideally shouldn't be masked. I think it's so boring if like human expands gets a buttload of tower and then they're just spamming tanks, and then you just see tanks going in, never attacking the heroes. They're just trying to eliminate the opponent. It's stupid. Like, I don't want to play that. I don't want to see that. And that's not the Warcraft 3 I would like to play. I feel like they kind of addressed that before when they made tanks go from 3 to 4 supply, in my opinion. It was so much harder to play with tanks. I really don't like to see these kind of games, nor playing them. And I didn't think they were like overpowered before. I feel like in particular, that's the thing though, right? If we talk about balance, there is every level we have to take in consideration. I feel like outside of top level, I think tanks were pretty good because people are just not as good as at the top level. But at the top level, I don't think they were a problem. Like, when have you ever seen Moon or Lowlight like lose to tanks? There was this one meta on Terna stand where human would open mount tanking first and then go into breaker knights and then mix in some tanks. So they would go half army, half tanks and make it very awkward for night elves to counter. But that was the only one. And those games, I don't think they were boring. It wasn't mass tank. It was knight, breaker, and tank. Thank you very much, Flame, for the host. Much love, dude. Hope you had a good stream. So yeah, like, I don't think tanks were in a place before where they really needed to be nerfed. If you wanted to nerf them, maybe you could have increased the bounty, whatever, for the experience by a little bit, maybe like 5. But going from 60 to 85 was like so extreme that the one time we saw a tank was like Fortitude. He sent his tanks forward, and then the Night Elf was 0, 6, and 6 after like 2 waves of tanks. It was just absurd. So they were nerfed to the point where you wouldn't even see them anymore. So it's kind of weird to have a unit in Warcraft 3 that like you never ever see because they've been nerfed into the grounds. And then human, you know, like you only have so many units in Warcraft 3, you know, like you got like around 12 usually fighting units. If one of them you never see because it sucks, it's kind of silly. So I'm happy that they do something about it, but we'll have to see, I guess. But I really don't think we're going to be seeing like triple workshop siege engine. I feel like most people should have figured by now how to play better against this. If you play against this like you would against a normal strategy, then you're doing it wrong. And at top level, like I said, I never really saw tanks, as of late, be like a dominant force that did really well. Night Elf. Truth of the Claw starting mana increased from 100 to 125. Developers notes a small quality of life change that was requested by the community, which also helps Master Bears have slightly more utility right away. Who requested that exactly? Like, I'm a little bit confused here. I feel like Night Elf, when they talk about bears, usually they want to get more hit points or damage. But I don't think I'd ever heard about them getting more mana in the first place. So I don't know about this. Like, there is some pushes against Night Elf right now for human. Like, when you play against Warden, it's very hard if you expand. So a lot of humans, they do one base rifle push against Warden. This change makes it even like much harder to win now with human against this. And human against Night Elf is a very weird topic because I feel like I hear a lot from the masses, especially at lower level, that human is favored. But I feel like at higher level, human is not favored in this matchup, at least from what I've seen recently. And after I'm done with this PTR here, we're going to look at the results of last year. And then we're going to check the results of this year in tournaments. And then we'll compare everything and look at all the actual relevant data. I hear a lot of people bringing up so many different points when talking about balance as of late. Like, some people they just like quote the stats of WT champions. You know, they're like, oh yeah, human or Night Elf is doing this good or this bad and stuff. I feel like WT champions is not nearly as important, in my opinion, as top level tournaments. But the thing about top level tournaments is that there's not so many of them. And also, those that happen don't have so many series happening. You only need to win like 5 best of 3 or best of 5 to win a tournament usually. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's right now, in my opinion, on the current patch, I feel like Undead and Orc are doing really well. And then Night Elf and Human are lagging behind. But that's my personal opinion. I'm not saying this is like fact or whatever. It's just my personal opinion. If I look at the top level tournaments, I feel like Undead and Orc have been doing pretty well in comparison with Human and Night Elf. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't really know about the other matchups. Like, I'm a human player, so if I see this change, I'll think about it in Night Elf against human, but against in the other matchups, I don't really know what that means. Maybe it's going to encourage more bear play in Night Elf Mirror. Who knows? Against Undeads, I don't know how much this is going to help. Against Orc, I don't know either. But I know against human, this kind of scares me if you have to do like rifle pushes sometimes. Maybe it's going to make it less viable, but expanding is also really hard sometimes. To expand a little bit more actually about human against Night Elf, yeah, I feel like at top level it's very hard against top Night Elves. And then we saw Infi for some time do really well, kind of dominate Moon at WGL, but then last Dreamhack Moon kind of destroyed Infi very convincingly as well. And then I think Lowlight won a tournament as well recently, beating Chemico. So at top level, it does feel like human and elves are trading games to a point where it seems like it's kind of fair between both of them. But yeah, it feels like the masses, at least in Europe, I always hear that like, yeah, human is so favored against elf. I'm like, is it? Are you watching every top game there is out there? Because it doesn't feel like at top level it is. Alright, undeads. Acolyte hit point regeneration while on blight reduced from 4 to 3 HP per second. Developers note in a previous patch we saw the regen rate on blight double. This was to address the vulnerability of the unit being exposed and stationary while mining gold, as the overall spirit of the change was heading in the right direction. We're reducing the numbers slightly to allow for more harassment opportunities from the opposite player. I think acolytes were like overbuffed for sure. I think they were shit before and they needed a buff. But they were overbuffed. Like everything was buffed around them. You can't just take a worker and say, okay, this worker is now going to be faster, tankier, regen quicker, and like just be buffed in every single way. Like as a human, when I see an acolyte scouting me, the fact that I can't, like it's so fucking hard to kill one acolyte that scouts you. It's like in your face, annoying. It makes me a little bit sick, to be honest. So I think it's nice to see acolyte being toned down a little bit, but it's only on blight. So it's only if you try to harass acolyte, which as a human, like, when is that ever going to happen? Probably never. So yeah, I don't feel very concerned by this, to be honest. Rod of Necromancy cooldown reduced from 26 to 24 seconds. Developers note slight calibration of the previous change. We noticed that this change has more effect on undead creeping than intended, so we're reducing this number slightly. It's so weird. Like you would think 26 to 24 seconds, it's not that big a change, right? It's not. It's like a 2 difference, right? From 24 to 26, but somehow I heard so many undeads complain heavily about this one just because they were used of the old timings and it kind of broke the timings with which they were creeping and then into harassing later on. I feel like none of them look at Rod of Necromancy and are like, okay, yeah, this is 150 gold, you get 4 charges, this is a pretty sick item. Instead, they look at it and are like, oh my god, they increased it to 2 seconds, it's so bad now, undead, underpowered, really? Happy is only just so much better than everybody else. I don't know, like, I think it's okay to like give undead something, like it's gonna be more comfortable now because they go back to like what they were used to before. But it's gonna make it easy for undead in the start of the game to still creep like they used to do against human and then come by and harass pretty quickly. So yeah, again, looking at this from the human standpoint, it kind of scares me to see any change, any positive change for undead, even though it's just 2 seconds here. Ritual dagger gold cost reduced from 125 to 100. Note, we're reducing the cost of the ritual dagger to promote its use more and to bring its cost in line with its healing performance. It's just 25 gold, but again, like I'm a little bit worried when I see undead changes. I still think that Crypt Lord and Undead Expo in general is just so insanely good that if you make other heroes better by giving them the potential to heal, it's a little bit scary for me, so yeah, we'll have to see. Like I said, it's just 25 gold, like it's not a ton, but the ritual dagger being added in the first place made me kind of go, like now they can go any hero. Crypt Lord Impale stun hero duration reduced from 1 to 3 to 1, 1.5, 2, and Crypt Lord reduced from 75. Crypt Lord damage reduced from 75, 120, 165 to 60, 110, 150. Fuck yes! About goddamn time, Jesus Christ, I've been praying for this for 9 months. Goddamn. I feel like I've been in hell for 9 months, like just burning like extra hell and like I've been getting cooked. And then finally, maybe this is coming a little bit more to an end. You know, like maybe they're going to turn the oven down and I'm going to burn a little less when this finally fucking comes through. Because this was the stupidest single spell in the entire game for so long. God damn. So many games I've lost to this because my hero is stunned for freaking 3 seconds. 3 seconds where you cannot use Holy Light, you cannot use Invuln, you cannot do anything. And he lands it on multiple of your heroes. And he does that much damage on top of it. What the fuck is this hero? God damn. About fucking time. Developers notes, we're bringing the overall hero stun duration in line with the other hero stun abilities. Please note its overall stun duration against units remain unchanged. While looking at Impale and potentially changing other units in other factions, we notice that the threat of Impale damage is the main reason that certain strategies are not viable against an undead player that goes Crypt Lord first and levels fast. Yeah, no shit. God damn. I waited so fucking long for this one. Jesus Christ. And I hope these are the right numbers. To me, these numbers, you know, they look good. I don't want the Crypt Lord to get nerfed to the point where we never see it anymore, but I also don't, I'm so fucking tired. I am so tired of getting stunned for fucking 3 seconds in an AoE that stuns multiple of my heroes, and then I lose to like so many undeads. It's so stupid, and even at top level. Like I said, like, if you want to look at balance, you can look at every level first, but where it matters the most is at the absolute top level. Shemiko and Sok, they do pretty bad against undead. They lost so much against Crypt Lord. And Infi refuses. Like, this is literally the one matchup I've never seen him playing like forever. It's human against undead. He just doesn't even play it. That tells you a lot about the matchup right here. Like, he said it himself. Like, he compared facing undead to fighting a tiger. And he said, why would I use my bare hands when I could just use a gun? And basically, the gun in that analogy is playing another race. And playing human is fighting the tiger with your bare hands, so I think that says a lot about the state of the matchup. For a main human, the best human player in the world technically to say that. Frost armor duration is now scaled per level. Level 1 frost duration 2 seconds, then on level 2 4, then on level 3 6. I don't know what it was before, but I'm guessing maybe it was too long, maybe on level 1. And yeah, I don't know how much this concerns human. Like, we see frost armor against human, but it's mostly about... I guess the frost duration is a bit annoying, but it's a bit also about the added armor for the units and stuff. Before it was 4 seconds in every level? Okay. Yeah, the thing about this is that usually undeads rarely go frost armor level 2, because when they get level 4, they will get dark ritual anyway. So it's a good nerf, I think. I think frost armor was a little too good. It was one of the things that was helping undead a lot against orc, though. So the fact that he now goes to 2 seconds, maybe that's going to be a little bit of help to orc against undead. So you have to be careful when you make this kind of changes, because this affects multiple matchup. This was something that the community has been requesting for some time. I really wonder when they write this, like, who was requesting that exactly? And it addresses the early power spike against melee units while still allowing the ability to scale up. As the Lich levels up, this tuning makes the ability slightly worse at level 1, the same as it is currently at level 2 and better at level 3. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about this one, like... Guess we'll have to see. Yeah, I do think... It sounds like it makes sense, right? Level 1, 2, then 4, then 6. You know, it's like gradual. Something that was 4 seconds on level 1 does sound like it was a little bit extreme before, so... I think I probably like it like this. Boneyard no longer requires sacrificial pit. Developers notes we currently believe it takes too long for frost worms. Okay. Frost worms then. To see play, this change should allow players to find strategies to use frost worms. They're flying worms now. And should also help in conjunction to the night change in this patch. I don't really know what to think about this kind of changes. To me, if you're a night elf and you want to go for a Chim Roost, I always thought it was so normal to get an Ancient of Wind first. So when they made that change, I was like, why do they do that? This is so weird. I never really understand these kind of changes. In StarCraft, they did the same with the engineering bay and the turret. One day they just said, if you want to get a turret, you don't need any bay anymore. You just get a turret whenever you want. I don't really understand. Like, as human, you don't really see frostworms, so I don't feel concerned, but I was with my friend earlier on a call who's Night Elf, and he was freaking out. It was like, oh, Night Elf is so screwed against undead now. If you go bears, they're just gonna rush the frostworm and then you're dead. So, yeah, definitely, I don't know what to think about this one, but yeah, this is a really weird change for me. Imagine if, like right now, if you wanna go Dragon Hawks, you need to have a lumber mill and a shop. Imagine if now, all of a sudden, they remove one of those requirements. Imagine if they said, you don't need lumber mill anymore. That will help humans so much to get to Dragonhawks more easily and like deal with air. So I don't really understand why this is happening exactly. Like, what's the point? They say it takes too long for frostworms to see play. Yeah, but they're like a very expensive 7 supply unit. Like, maybe it should take long for them to see play. Like, maybe if you can rush them, they will be ridiculous. So yeah, not sure what to think about this one. Items, Aleria's Flute of Accuracy bonus reduced from 0.1 to 0.075. So I like that. It seems like they're just gonna scale down all the auras, which I really like. I think all of the auras that you could find were like too OP before. I think the auras are OP themselves, and there's so many scenarios in which you find one of these and it's just way too good. Ancient Django of Endurance bonus reduced from 0.05 to 0.1. Oh, sorry. Okay, so it's the movement speed and the attack speed. So yeah, it's just scaled down as well a little bit. Khadgar from 0.75 to 0.5. Legidum Horn from 0.5, 1.0 to 0.3, 0.75. Scourge Boneshime from 0.2 to 0.15. Warsong Battle Drums from 0.1 to 0.075. So this is for the damage that it gives. Lionhorn of Stormwind from 2 to 1.5. It's still pretty good, I think, Lionhorn. All items resale percentage increased from 50 to 75% of the original of the item's original cost. These are probably the biggest changes in this patch. We're making some change to all the aura items to reduce their effectiveness. We believe that these aura items do have a place in the game, but should not have parity in power to the actual hero ability. Also, due to the nature of some items being more impactful than others, we're increasing the sell rate of items to help mitigate some potential bad item luck. Yeah, how about the fucking rings? Like, you should have started there, in my opinion. Goddamn Lotard ring. I would love to be able to delete that fucking emote if that actually happens. That players may experience, which can ultimately determine the outcome of some games. Yeah, no shit, if Undead finds Khadgar, I'm pretty sure that with already having statues, whether they're gonna have 0.75 or 0.5, I'm still pretty screwed, so... I mean, I like this change. This makes a lot of sense. We've talked a lot about it before. And looking at the numbers, they make sense. I still think that a lot of the auras in the game are too broken. And that being able to find them is also really broken. But yeah, the speed auras in particular are really, really sick. And yes, Undeads finding Khadgar will still be pretty insane. Bug fixed an issue of inconsistent rally flag behavior on gold mines, which could reveal player locations in the fog of war. So I think this is like, obviously... I was really worried they would never fix this. Like, this made some 4 players map unviable. Or like playing random, for example. So I'm happy that they fixed that. I think that was really needed. And yeah, actually it's going to take some time for this PTR to go through. So for now, people might still be abusing that. But eventually, it looks like this is going to be changed. And that's good news. Why is my cam so high? So the things that, in my opinion, they should have addressed that weren't addressed. Or like if you take my current list of things that I wanted to see them change, on top of that list, I would say mountain giants are still very fucking annoying and just never die. And there's nothing about mountain giants in there. But for human, we at least have Sundering Blades now quicker. But usually, getting Sundering Blades when you were facing giants before was never really a problem. So I still think it's going to be extremely hard to deal with mountain giants. And I also see orcs struggle against mountain giants. And I also see undeads, if there is 80 supply night elves, struggle against mountain giants sometimes. So this is definitely one of the things that's missing here, in my opinion. Banshees. Can we talk about Banshees? There's nothing about Banshees in there, is there? No, there isn't. Anti-magic shell. Undispellable. Like, where is my change for inner fire to be undispellable if you want to keep that? Like, what the hell? How is anti-magic shell undispellable? It's like ridiculous. There is no other like buff or debuff like this. Imagine if Bloodlust was undispellable. Can you imagine the shit show? Like, Orc would just bulldoze through everybody. I mean, they cannot do it, to be honest, right now. At high level, but yeah. Like, this is... How is AMS undispellable? Like, give us something about AMS. Like, either nerf it a little bit or make it dispellable. Because this is... I mean, it wouldn't help human because we don't have dispel anyway. Dispel doesn't fucking work. Well, you think that 100 range... 100 range is going to make Death Note not shout dispel when he faces something? I don't think so. He's still going to be shouting the same. Like, the emote is staying. It's here to stay. Death Note dispel, Death Note idiots. That's it. So yeah, something about AMS was very important for me to be added, ideally, into the game. And Necrovagan is untouched, by the way. There's nothing in there addressing Necrovagan. I guess technically the Crypt Lord will be weaker, so probably not going to be seeing as much Crypt Lords into Necrovagan, but Dreadlord into Necrovagan is still extremely strong. It's a very obnoxious strategy to face. It's too easy to execute and it's too good. The question that I have also, like when thinking about Night Elf, one of the hardest scenarios right now is when you expand and the Warden is harassing you. I don't think that the tower change is going to do a lot against that. So Peasants not being touched at all and just the towers being buffed a little bit, I don't know if that's enough to help out against Warden harassment. But yeah. I think that's pretty much it. Let's see what the people have been saying. Yeah, the numbers were skewed first, I think, when they posted them. A human tower rush... this is Muffy. A human tower rush against Night Elf is imba again. You can't cancel the tower with 3 archer anymore, while 4 or 5 footies are attacking the archer. Power repair will work by 100% now in a tower rush. So this is the problem of like a player who doesn't understand that at top level, a human tower rush is like a wild dream that just never happens. A tower rush like the old days where you buy 2 kit towers, you put them down, and then you somehow out-repair the damage of the Night Elf. That just doesn't even exist. If you want to do a 1-base push and make tower, you have to make the towers outside of the range of the Night Elf's base. Let them go up, and then you can kite the Night Elf back into your towers. So this kind of comments being posted as if it was like balance fact or whatever, like, is really, really weird to me. Like, you should just look at high level and ask yourself, how many times have Moon and Lolite been tower rushed recently? And do you think they will get tower rushed after this patch? Personally, I don't think so. I could be wrong, you know? Like, maybe suddenly, like, Moon is losing to everybody, you know? Maybe I meet him on WT Champion and I tower rush him, and he's attacking with 3 archers, and my 5-footmen are killing his archers, and I'm power repairing, and then the towers finish, and I write to Moon, yeah, this is for the Twisted Meadows game we played 15 years ago. Like, no, like, I'm sorry, this is just not gonna happen. What the fuck? Did Human get some insane... Oh, this is a Night Elf player, by the way. This is the thing about balance patches. This is why it's so hard for Blizzard to know what to do. Is that everybody will whine about their race being too weak. Did Human get some insane buffs for no reason? Blizzard, what? You do know Human destroys Night Elf in this matchup currently on ladder? And you are buffing Human more? Sundering Blades already has no counter for Elf. Oh my fucking god. If blasphemy was a sin, this guy's house would have been struck by thunder right now. Like, this is fucking insane to write something like that. Like, Knights are so garbage. As soon as you have any amount of bears and MGs and like you have Dryads shooting the Knights, they're just like fucking paralyzed here. They die to every AoE. One chim and they get blown out of there. Priest already hard counter against everything Elf has. Yeah, sure, as Death Note. Human towers guarantee free expansion already, while Elf can never pull up an expansion itself. And Human don't need wood at all, with rifles being only 30 wood and able to compete head-to-head, sometimes even better, versus tier 3 bears with all its upgrades. And now we are seeing more Human buff. If you haven't noticed, Blizzard, Human... Okay, there we go. This is exactly the type of person I was talking about earlier. If you haven't noticed, Blizzard, Human has a 54.2 win rate Elf. If you forgot the versus. Versus Elf at the Grandmaster level in WT Champions. A whooping 54%, 54.2% win rate. This patch ought to be some joke. Do you want to guess his race? Warden icon. It's so sick, you know, like, it's just so many comments like this. Like, how do you want to gather feedback if you're Blizzard? You got people making this post like this. And wait, after this, we're going to go through the tournaments and we're going to see all the recent results. Just wait. Very happy to see the new PTR patch. Night Elf and undead change look reasonable. Too many Human buff and some OP, for example, repairing rate for Human helps tower rushes as well. I don't think it's a good idea to buff it. If Sundering Blades are for free, maybe reduce them from 15% to 10%. I would not tweak aura items. It is easy to remember that they match the first level for heroes' auras. They are powerful and introduce some RNG beauty into the game. How much do you play to say... Did this guy just say RNG beauty? Did I just hear that right? Because I'm slightly triggered right now. As somebody that finds a ring to start every game, and who keeps finding, like, Brilliance Aura every time I creep a big red, RNG beauty, like, I feel like I need an emote, RNG beauty, like, to be added into my chats as soon as possible. Also, resetting value 75% is too high, I'd say. At most 60% is okay. Still, items that have been already regularly sold, no, will be sold right away. If you find ring every game, is it still RNG? Good points, good points. Can't find him. He's buffing. Oh, there we go. Another Night Elf. The Night Elves are out in full force. I would have expected the undeads, you know, to be talking a lot, but... Is buffing human expansion, tower, siege tank play really the direction we want to take the meta? Night Elf is overall performing the worst in tournaments right now! What the fuck? Closely followed by humans. Bears need to have their damage back. With this change to knights, human will dismantle elf even harder than before. I suggest bears have +4 damage! I'm having a fucking seizure reading this. Chimera Roost moved to tier 2 with fairy dragons coming out of it. Instead of an Ancient of Wind, this buffs Chimera the same way Torrent got buffed by increasing accessibility. What the fuck, guys? This is everything that's wrong with society here with one post. What the fuck is going on? Oh my god. Okay, let's... Night Elf is the race that's doing the worst in tournaments right now, right? What's the full sentence? Night Elf is overall performing the worst in tournaments right now, closely followed by human. 2021. We've had 4 tournaments. Night Elf without success in those tier 1 tournaments, as you can see. And like, I don't consider a one single match here one tournament, because it's only Cruncher against Hitman. So far it's been Infi playing multiple races, Happy playing Undead, and then Lin playing Orc. Second place finishes Orc, Undead, Undead. Let's go to tier 2. I don't know if I would count the Meisterschaft because it's not really international, so maybe we can discard it. But yeah, Undead is doing very well in there, obviously. Focus won this against Mikael. 1-0 won Yule Cup against Chemico in finals, and then Lolite won this against Sok. So you can see, like, Lolite, it doesn't feel like he's having too much trouble against human. He did in DreamHack, but other than that... And look, the Night Elves eliminated each other. Maybe if they're on different parts of the bracket, Moon makes the finals here. But Moon's been having a hard time against Orc, which, by the way, I don't think was addressed in this patch at all. It's like, Orc against Night Elf is so weird because I play neither race, but I saw Night Elf get... or do really well at first, and then starting to get destroyed recently, and I don't really understand why. Like, it feels like Orcs got better, and then the Night Elf changes also made them have a harder time. We are Master Invitational number 2. Oh, this actually finished. Okay, so this is not filled out. Yeah, this here is not filled out, but brace yourselves. This is the top 4. 3 Orcs, 1 Undead. So the trend kind of continues of Orc and Undead doing really well. There was 1 human in the tournament. He won against Lowlight, but then he decided that he didn't have a chance against Undead with human, so he preferred to play Mirror. He lost, even though he won 1 map. Then he played against Focus, and he played Night Elf, and he lost. So, yeah, not much success for human here in this one. And then there is the AWL that's currently happening. Fortitude made it out of the groups as the lone human so far. And he beat WFZ twice to do it. And he lost to Lolite, by the way. So, as you can see at top level, it doesn't really look to me that humans doing really good against Night Elf. Like, where do you see human doing really good against Night Elf in any of these tournaments? Foggy beat Chemico twice, 2-0, 2-0. Lolite beat Fortitude here in this one. In DreamHack was maybe the only one where they did kind of well. Let me check. Let's go back to tier 1. So in DreamHack, the biggest one was, in my opinion, that showed perfectly how to play was Moon. Actually, I don't need the maps. Was Moon against Infi. Yeah, here, that was a 2-0. And that was super solid by Moon. I don't think Infi even played bad. Yes, he made some mistakes, but like, as you can see, Moon... Like, where is human in DreamHack here? Sok, 5th place. Infi, 4th place, even though he took a free win against Sok because he picked Undead, by the way. Look, he picked Undead against Sok, 2-1. Let's go down here. Chemico actually had a good performance here. So Chemico beat Fly. He lost to 1-2-0. He beat Focus. And he lost to Lola 2-0. And then he won against Fortitude in the mirror. So where the fuck are the humans doing well against Night Elf? C-Round. Who else? Create, Muffy. Where, like, am I missing something? Like, is there, wait. Let's go back. Let's go back to the main page. Let's see. Tournaments. Maybe they're talking about tier 3. Let's go check out tier 3. Maybe I missed something. Are humans doing really well here? Like, maybe I missed something, guys. Maybe I missed some data. No. Actually, no human has won here at first in any of these. And then we had 1, 2, 3 human wins. But overall, even in tier 3, humans kind of getting dumpstered. So, I mean, am I missing something? Is there some secret tournament circuit I'm not aware of? Is Cruncher winning a single best of 5 against Hitman, like, representation of human domination? It's not even a human against elf. Like, where are those humans that are doing well against elf? Is it just W3 champions? Are we just talking about W3 champions? Do W3 champions results count higher than all of those tier 1 and tier 2 tournaments? Apparently for these guys it does. This is the world we live in. And these are the guys that are going to spam the forums and try and convince Blizzard that this is actually the case, that human is favored against elf. Where the fuck has it been favored against elf? It hasn't. To the patch balancers. Try to actually follow the stats of this game. Go to W3 Champions, statistics, win rates 1.32.9, 2200 Grandmaster, Asia plays 2 now. Night Elf versus Human, 45.8%. Night Elf versus Orc, 44.8%. Night Elf versus Undead, 42.6%. And now we are buffing Human to this level. I don't even know what to fucking say anymore, like, to this guy. Like, this is just... whatever, let's just move on. Like, this is some next level brain damage when I win this stuff. Where are the happy people? Where are the people that are happy with some of these changes, at least? Like the item. How about complementing the item? I agree that Night Elf needs a buff, but humans only have a lead on Night Elf, but are behind against the other two races, so buffing them is then the issue here. See, this is the problem. Like, people like this have spammed forums and Discord so much that now they are trying to convince everybody that humans favored against elf. I just showed you, like, all the results for the year so far in tier 1 and tier 2, and, like, human hasn't particularly been doing well against elf. Last year, they did well against elf, mostly because, like, Infi had a sick year. And he kept beating Moon, like, and Lowlights. He won 2 WGL mostly off of his human against elf and human against orc because he didn't play a single undead. Which helped him a lot, obviously. And this guy will just argue endlessly. And you know, Blizzard might read this. This is the problem here. Blizzard might read this and think, these human buffs are absolutely exaggerated and human needs a nerf currently in the matchup versus elf. No more buff. Nerf other races if necessary. It's like, this is the problem. Like, this guy is not even following top level Warcraft 3. Please remove Lightning Shield, Ring +4, Ring +5, and Crystal Ball from drops because they're either too strong or too weak compared to the other items. I like this. Actually, I concur here. I think Lightning Shield is really stupid. Unless you're gonna nerf it a lot, you just get it out of there. Ring +4, +5, and Crystal Ball. Like, who the fuck finds these and is happy? Like, nobody. Like, just get them the fuck out of the game. They're terrible. They're garbage. I don't like Sundering Blaze by default. I'm a human player. Better remove these upgrades from the game and buff Knights other way. +1 damage or +20 hit points. Don't know about that. Frost Armor nerf at level 1. Where? Don't you play human, Francis? What the fuck? Yo, Chiller with the resub. Thank you very much. Human, worse than all. I don't know about that. Good starts. You nerf Impale. What about Mountain Giants? They are broken. Double taunt. Take 0 damage. MGs need a rework. Question. If you sell item for 75% now, for how much you sell it when you are worth 50 supply? Yeah, good question, actually. I wonder. Frost Armor nerf isn't that great, is it? I don't know, actually. It went from 4 seconds to 2 seconds now on level 1. Before it was 4 seconds, the frost on every level. Yeah, they definitely lowered it. But yeah, like, I mean, are we under the impression that human was doing exceptionally well against elf? I don't know how. Like, where is this coming from? It's just W3 Champions ladder? Like, look at the ladder. Let's look at last season. Are we using this ladder? Of which, by the way, Happy left probably hundreds of games by now, or in the last season. Are we using this ladder as like the ultimate test for balance? And there's like barely any elf on it, and they're the ones that have the least games as well, compared to the other players usually. It's so weird to try and like you handpick something, and then you're like, oh, human's so good against elf because of W3 Champions Grandmaster stats or whatever. It's so fucking weird. I really don't know like how you're gonna do this and not look at like the actual facts that matter, aka these. These are the things that matter. Tier 1, Tier 2. You need to take everything in consideration. You know, like Super WGL, for example, was a 1 versus 1. It was a 2-player tournament. This was a 2-player tournament. So really in Tier 1 so far, in Europe, we've had undead mirror finals. And then Orc in Asia. Like these were the big tournaments with 16 players. Like 16 very strong players facing each other in Asia and 8 in Europe. And guess what? Human didn't win a single series against Undead here. Neither did they in Asia. So this is still the most problematic matchup. Like some Night Elves will try and like pretend that Night Elf against Human is the most problematic matchup, but it's not. Human against Undead still is. And at high level, the Night Elves, I don't think they're struggling that much necessarily. Look at this tournament. Yeah, like I said, they eliminated each other in semi, and then Lola 3-2'd Sock. Just solid as you would expect. But the problem is that as soon as we start talking about very high level balance, if someone of their race is doing very good, most people will say stuff like, oh, but it's just him. It's just Moon, it doesn't count. It's just Lola, it doesn't count. It's just Happy, it doesn't count. It's just Infi, it doesn't count. It's just Lin, it doesn't count. I mean, how about it counts no matter who it is? Because these guys, they're the top level of their race. And they're showing the way to everybody. So yes, most people are never going to be as good as them. I mean, in fact, nobody is going to ever be as good as them, maybe. But the thing is, they still do really well and show you how to play. So everything counts, technically. If they can do it, other people can try and do it. Okay, no, Johnny, you've been trolling for long enough. Like, just look at the data. You obviously play Night Elf. You're out of there. I'm looking at the whole data, you know, like you can see very clearly who plays what in people that go deep in the tournaments here. And then Human has had 2 second places. I don't think that Human is absolutely garbage. Like, I'm mostly fine with Human against Orc and Human against Elf right now. But it bothers me when somebody says that Human's super OP against Night Elf. Like, it's just not. The one biggest problematic matchup is Human against Undead, and it still has been for a very long time. Will this patch notes change that? It's probably going to change a bunch, but Undispellable AMS is still there, and Human still has a lot of issues against Undead. Undead is still very fast, has good nuke, has good units, a good mix of physical damage to nuke. So I feel like it's very early. Like, you can look at this patch and be like, oh my god, Human's going to be so good. And guess what? People did that last time already. The last time there was a big PTR, I kept hearing, oh, Todd, this is your patch. Nice changes, bro. You did that. And I was like, what? Like, I had no idea what the fuck they were talking about. And then look. Then the last PTR became real with the patch change that went through. And these are the results that we're getting now. Where the fuck is Human? They're not performing super well. They're not this OP race that I heard they were going to be after the last PTR. I mean, Human was supposed to dominate, right, from that last PTR. And now I feel like history is repeating itself. People look at this PTR, they're going to freak out. We're going to have a bunch of elves posting in the comments like, oh my god, Human's going to be too strong. And then Blizzard's going to back down from these changes. And we're going to be here 1 year from now, looking at Tier 1 and Tier 2, and Human's going to be nowhere to be seen. Like, this is the problem. Like, it's so hard to get good feedback, and like, people are so fucking biased for their own main race that you can almost never get anywhere with balance. It's like impossible to have a discussion. Everybody's trying to argue their case, and not enough people are looking at the cold, hard facts in these tournaments here. Like this guy in the chat was just spamming me. He's like, oh, you just went over Hawk against Foggy and didn't even mention it. I've never said that human never wins against Night Elf. And I don't need to mention every human against elf that happens, but I'm saying that at high level, there is some people here in the comments that are trying to paint a picture that human is overpowered against elf. When it's not. If you look at these tournaments here, it's not like human is dominating elf every time that they meet them. It's just stupid to say something like that. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on balance currently and those tournaments. Like, the thing about balance is that, I mean, we can highlight it with the DreamHack results and player participation in each region. So America is like, player base wise, is one of the smaller regions. The best player from America is human and orc. The orc one is the one that has been doing very, very good for a very long time. Now finally the human one beat him. But they're by far the two best players from that region. Now in Asia, going into the tournament, we had 3 humans, 4 orcs, 1 undead, and 3 night elves. So only 1 undead. So you can see the difference. Like in Asia, undead is underrepresented, even though technically right now on paper it's one of the very good races. It's kind of crazy that out of that many players, we got 12 players. There's only 1 undead. And then Infi counts as multi-race because he switched his race. And the undead did extremely well in the group, 5-0. And then we had like 1 orc and 1 human making it off. This one it was 2 orc and 1 night elf. Then we go into the playoffs. And we end up with an orc-orc finals. That's the thing, it's like a very small sample of games. But you can see from this that, like, if you're an orc player and you look at this and you're like, oh, they got lucky. Like, you know, orc is not that good. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And also, 1-0 could have won this tournament here. It felt like it was very close against Fly. If he had won that, he would have been in finals, which, you know, changes the standing for the race that he plays and stuff. And, I mean, Lin was on fire. He was just going to beat everybody anyway. Like, you don't see me standing here from this and being like, oh my god, human is so shit against Orc because Lin beat Shemiko. No, like, I would rate Lin higher than Shemiko. I think, personally, against Orc, I find the matchup hard, but if I look at the highest level, it's not like human is losing every single series against Orc. He won this one against Soin. You know, I'm trying to be reasonable here. If you look in the groups, human actually did pretty well. Like, Shemiko beat multiple Orcs. He beat Fly. And he beat Focus. So, you know, I'm taking all the data in consideration. And from this, I could be unreasonable. I could look at Lin versus Shemiko and say, oh my god, human's so dog shit. He just got stomped to death. He couldn't do anything in those games. But no, like, he beat a bunch of orcs, then he made the best one of them, and then he lost. Moon has been having a hard time against Orc. He lost a very close series to Fly. He might have won this one, and then if he won, he would have had a chance against 1-0. So that's how you can see that one tournament, I always feel like, doesn't mean that much when you get these close results. If Moon somehow wins map 5 here, he's in semi, and I think that against 1-0 he usually does fine, so maybe he could have made the finals. It does feel like Lin probably would have beaten him in the finals, but yeah. And then we go to Europe. And in Europe, it's not even close. Like in Europe, what saddens me is that we have so many good humans, but they can never do well because there's so many undead. So in this case, this was a small tournament. You know, like you can't consider this tournament to be as representative as like a 16-player tournament or 32-player. It was only 8 players. There were some invites. So here they are, Hawk, Happy, Vortex, Axolot, Foggy, and then there are qualifiers, Blade, Krav, and 1. In the qualifiers, I think Undead already did pretty well against Human. It was only Blade that squeezed through. And then in the actual tournament, so you had the group with 4 Undeads. Let's just ignore that. Like a Mirror, we don't really care about like balance in Mirror, you know, obviously. But then, yes, Hawk beat Foggy. But it was a very weird series. Like, one thing to note about this is that for some obscure reason, this is only for NA in Europe. We were not allowed to use maps with the zoom. And Foggy is one of the guys with the biggest zoom out of everybody. I don't know why. I believe it might be a Blizzard thing. And we couldn't play with zoom. Even though I just showed you the Asia brackets. For Asia, we played on NetEase. And the zoom is built into the platform. So they could use zoom. But in Europe, we couldn't. And if you're Foggy and you play every day with, I don't know what he plays with, like 2,200 or whatever, and then suddenly you have to play with 1,650, can you imagine the shock? Like, your units are like 3 times the size that they usually are. So I would definitely take that in consideration for Foggy's performance. Like, his first few games looked really rough against Krav, I thought. And then he lost to Hawk, and also I didn't think those games were very representative of how good he is. But then in the rematch against Krav, he did really well. But yeah, Blade lost to Krav, got absolutely destroyed. And then Vortex absolutely trashed Hawk as well, with a bunch of Crypt Lords. So yeah, human against undead, you know, it seems like the humans, they cannot go far. Like in this case, he did well against Elf in the one match that he played in, but then undead mirror in the finals again, as we have had so many times, and just undead winning every time. Yes, Happy's maybe the best player in the world, maybe he should be winning this tournament, but the trend of human losing every series that they've played against undead almost recently just keep on continuing. Let's see if there is the... if I can find the Europe qualifier. Yeah, so Blade was the anomaly here. He was the only one to really start beating undeads. He beat 1 in his qualifying match. He beat Lil DC before, then he beat 1. Johnny Cage got close against Kraft, but then he lost as well. And then from the open qualifier... my man Hapozor, another casualty of the undead. And this was really close as well. If you talk to guys like Wiz, it's so weird because a lot of elves, they're stuck. They're stuck on human. They just think like human is just the hardest matchup because they don't really know how to play. And I feel like, you know, like Starshape, for example, you know, he does builds that you never ever see Moon or Lolite do. And then when he loses, he blames imbalance, but he doesn't even do the most viable builds for Night Elf against human. On the other side of that, you got guys like Wiz. Not nearly as well known, but extremely good against human. He pushed Blade to the limit here. And Blade is one of the best in Europe. And Wiz is so good against human, he beat Death Note convincingly, so... it's like, you know, maybe just study the right players and then see what they can do and... just look at the top level. Yes, Sed I think is also very good against human, but in the late game. In the early game, maybe not as much. But Sed is also, yes, really good. Yo, Corey Mac, thank you for the 378. Much love, my dude. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, I mean, we can... let's go back one. We can look at earnings. Let's see, for 2021. Let's look at 2020 first. So earnings in 2020, human is first. A little bit ahead of Night Elf. And then Undead and Orc are lagging behind. And I think like 120 didn't have that great. Actually, we can... oh yeah. Yeah, 120 at 46k. And he won like just the one tournament, which was a team tournament. So yeah, he didn't have the best of years. And then, yeah, Happy 30k. It still dominated the region. So yeah, if you look at his numbers, it might seem like human... you know, he's doing pretty good, but that's the thing though. Infi only won 2 tournaments, but he won the 2 biggest one in the year. That's why he carried human. That's why he got 96k. So yes, we can take that in consideration. In that regard, like yes, human did good that year. You cannot look at that year and be like, yeah, human was bad in 2020. But remember that he was mostly off because he won the 2 biggest tournaments and he met 0 undead in both of them. Here, we're gonna have a look real quick. And at this time, I thought that human against elf, yes, looked pretty good, and human against orc as well, because Infi was never losing. So I couldn't look at these games and be like, no, human is trash against orc, just focus and fly and doing garbage. No, Infi and TH played really well. But I already disliked that back then a lot of elves tried to say that elf against human was unplayable, because, look, it's 3-2-3-2. If Lolite and Moon win map 5 here, which by the way were very closely contested, we have a Night Elf mirror in the finals. So it feels like it's a bit of a whining war here. You know, like, they're almost happy that their race lost, because then they can complain and be like, oh no, humans OP, you know, they keep smashing Night Elf. They're not smashing them. It was 3-2 and 3-2. And I think that after this tournament, Lolite in particular started playing a lot better against human. And then this leads us into the winter season of WGL, where Lolite and Infi were the best in the matchup. And Infi didn't struggle against Moon, because Moon was completely lost against human this tournament. So Infi smashed Moon in the groups, and then he smashed him in the finals. And his real toughest matchup was against Lolite in the quarterfinals, which again was a 3-2 and very closely contested. So yes, like, if you are a Night Elf and you want to win about human, you'll say, oh my god, Moon got 5-0'd by Infi. But if you look at all the numbers, every series, what happened in the actual games was so interesting, I thought. Like, Infi just mind gamed the hell out of Lolite and Moon. I talked to some of the players, and in practice, he kept sending Peasant on Echo Isle to get a cancel on the Ancient of War. And then when he met them in the tournament, they didn't dare to make the Ancient of War there. But he wasn't even scouting because he anticipated it. So he was just ahead of them in the mind games. And he just outplayed everybody. So now, let's go back real quick to the latest DreamHack. This is the same, like, you know, like the Night Elves that complain about human. This is the same as if I take this tournament and I look at human, or I take Infi against Moon, and I'm just like, oh, human's fucking terrible against Elf. Look at this. Moon smashed Infi. It was a 2-0. He couldn't do anything. Mountain Giants were there. It's like, you know, it's so unreasonable overall to do that, I think. When I look at most human against Orc and Night Elf, I feel like it's mostly fine. Like, there are series being traded. Sometimes, like, one human will be doing really well. Sometimes an Orc, sometimes an Elf. These are, like, not the most problematic matchup. Human against Undead is. But I feel like the Night Elves, they just whine so much about human, even though there's... From these tournaments, there is not so much to whine about, in my opinion. They are doing worse against Orc right now. And Undead also seems to be a little bit hard. But yeah, they're doing terrible against Orc. Let's go check Moon's profile. He fell to 9th rank. Like, Moon was top 3 before, not long ago. He fell to 9th rank. Do you want to see who he loses to? Lin beat him 2-0, Fly 2-0, Focus 2-1, Fly 3-2, Soin 2-1, Lin 2-0, Lin 3-1, Lolite 3-1, 1-2-0, 2-1. And then we have to go back to Winter Season where Infi 3-0'd him last year. And then 2-0 before that. But like all of his recent losses, his fall in the yellow is due to getting smashed by Orc, almost exclusively. And whenever he's met a human, he won against Sok, and he won against Infi. So, like, I mean, what do you want to say? Like, it's Night Elf against Orc. I feel like you should be complaining about if you look at top level. But the problem with these guys that we see in the comment is that they look at their own games. They don't try to improve. They don't look at what's happening at top level. They don't study replays. They just play ladder and they take WT champion stats and then they try to convince everybody that humans too good against Elf. But to me, it's just not. So yeah, this is becoming something different now and I've been going on for long enough. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the PTR talk and current balance. I do wish that everybody would take in consideration everything, you know, like just everything. Every tournament games that happen. I mean, let's look at the low rankings, I guess, real quick. Before we close this out here, Lin is in first place. He's been absolutely destroying everybody. Happy is in second place, but I really feel like there is a big asterisk to any European being very high on this ranking because they don't play against the Asian players, which technically is still the strongest region. So when Happy was like rank 1, like 100 or 200 points ahead of the second, I was like, you know, like, I don't feel like it means that much because he's just beating the same Europeans that he beats all the time. He's never facing Hitman, he's never facing the best Asians. And like in terms of races, it's Orc, Undead, Orc. Multi-race, because no, Infi doesn't play human every series. You can see just switch. Like, we're still somehow considering a human main, even though he's not really. On paper, he's still supposed to play human, at least in 2 matchups against Orc and Elf. But as we saw recently, even in one of those now, he doesn't anymore. Against Undead, he never played human and never will. And in Mirror, he also doesn't play human. So there's 2 matchups out of 4 where he doesn't play human. And then it's Night Elf, Undead, Night Elf, and then you have 2 humans again. 3 humans, in fact. Then Foggy, Hitman, Soin. So it's still, you know, it's not completely imbalanced. There is not one race missing the whole way here. Like, it's not like you look at the top 10. Like, I mean, if you stop at number 10, then you could say the only human is Chemico, and then Infi is not even a real human. So then you can complain about human, but you have to look at everything. I do feel like the big cutoff point will be maybe top 20. Top 20 is where really, like, you should stop taking it as seriously because, you know, there's not so many. Yeah, there's not so many pro players. Like, even in these players, a lot of them are, like, mainly streamers, you know, and that also compete. It's not, like, the most active scene in terms of pro players, and I feel like there is definitely a fall off, like, from maybe rank 20. But yeah, like, if you look in there is every race represented. Doesn't really feel to me like there is anybody underrepresented. Maybe Night Elf slightly in the top 20. But not long ago, very high up there. It was Lolite and Moon, you know, in the top 5. So it can also go in waves. You know, you can't just look at the last 4 months and then definitely speak about balance. You have to see what happens in the next few months, what happened before that. It really comes with the patches as well. Yeah, that's it, guys. That's my talk and kind of rant, in particular about elves, talking about human. About balance, let me know. I will post this on YouTube. Let me know what you guys think and what you think about the PTR changes. And yeah.